Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. As you may have noticed, this video is a little bit different than normal because there is another person. I'm Silly Goose Gamer and I do a little bit of everything between Let's Plays on indie games and video essays covering a wide variety of genres. Cinnamon Pumpkin reached out to me with an idea to work on a video together, and we decided to challenge each other to play a game, and then we were going to get together and talk about it. For those of you who don't know her, Cinnamon Pumpkin is an artist and content creator on YouTube who does amazing video essays on some more niche games. She's covered Endroll, Pedestal, and Hello Charlotte. If you have some spare time and you're interested in any of those games, I would highly recommend checking out her videos because she offers a very unique perspective on every single one. Back to business, Pumpkin has asked me to play Faust Alptraum, which she has also covered on her channel, wink wink, nudge nudge, after you're done here. So we will be discussing the game here, and now I will pass the mic over to her so she can introduce herself.
Hello, it's me, Cinnamon Pumpkin. I do analysis of weird indie games, and I love indie horror games. I've been a fan of Silly Goose Gamer for a while now, and she does really great Let's Plays of many awesome games, some that I have covered. She also does super interesting video analysis, so I really recommend you all to go see her video right after this one. So I was very glad that we get to collaborate on this. That's why I asked her to play one of my favorite games, which is Faust Alptraum, and she challenged me to play OneShot. Silly Goose Gamer was going to start by talking about her experience, so take it away.
Alright, so the game that I'm going to play, as mentioned a couple times, is Faust Alptraum. For those of you who don't know, it is a puzzle adventure game made by Laborat that came out in 2017. It has horror elements, but I wouldn't quite describe it as a horror game. You play as Elizabeth, a rather dour, serious young girl who is attending her father's funeral. After the funeral, she goes with her aunt to see her father's estate that she will be inheriting, and ends up trapped by the demon Mephistopheles in a surreal nightmare storybook version of the mansion that she must escape from. I actually did play the game a few times just because I knew going into it that the game was inspired by the play Faust, but I didn't know much about the play itself or how it inspired the game, so I wanted to go in as blind as possible for my first playthrough and see if I could kind of guess what was going on, and then do a little bit more of an in-depth playthrough my second time around. Right away, I will note that the first thing that grabbed my attention was the narration choice of the game. A lot of horror RPGs do have a young girl as the protagonist, and a lot of the time the narration choice is a little bit more personal. It's very obvious that the person we're playing as is, you know, the main voice, the main character, and everything like that. However, in this game, they actually chose to go third person. It was still from Elizabeth's point of view. It was not third person. I think it's omniscient, where it's like everybody, we can see everybody's thoughts. It was still Elizabeth's point of view, but it was third person, and it seemed to keep a lot of space from the player and her, keeping her very almost mysterious, I would say. At first, I wasn't sure if the choice was made based off limitations of what could be expressed through like the engine, because at the time I wasn't sure when the game actually came out, but I do believe, having played through it, that it was very deliberate in order to give distance from the protagonist on purpose. So yeah, that was like the very first thing that really grabbed my attention. I also really liked the name of the game. I thought was very interesting as well, because Alptraum actually means nightmare. So I was like, okay, it directly translates into Faust Nightmare. Faust is Elizabeth's last name in the game, so I immediately thought that maybe the game was going to be about some kind of like family curse, like a nightmare caused by the death of her father or something like that, because her father's funeral was the opening scene of the game. So I had a lot of like thoughts going into it, and I thought it was like a really good hook, because these are all like thoughts that I had literally within the first 5 minutes of what was shown in the game. So they really did a great job of just being like, what is going on, and like kind of hooking you in right away. As I mentioned, I did attempt to guess what was going on as I played during my first blind playthrough, and I liked the way that the game continuously presented you with new knowledge in a very dreamlike and childish way, almost leaving you more confused as you progressed. I did mention Mephisto, which is the demon who kind of traps Elizabeth in the house, which is a direct reference to Faust Alptraum, I later learned. But initially, the antagonist, Mephisto, they introduced themselves as the genie that defies everything. And on my first playthrough, my attention really was put on the word the djinn, because that was a really interesting way to tie it into the dream that Elizabeth is having, like the dreamlike aspect. Jinn are often depicted as like heavily affecting dreams or the subconscious mind, and are also not depicted as like wholly good or evil. And I really liked that description for this version of Mephisto, because I didn't really find them to be good or evil in the game. Like, they very much gave off almost trickster vibes. Like, they tried to be helpful, but also they were like they were kind of like getting in our way, but like they never directly sought to harm us until closer to like the end of the game. So I thought that was really, really interesting. However, that was the only time in the game that Mephisto was ever referred to as a djinn. Going forward, they were referred to as a being or a demon exclusively. So I was kind of like, I don't know if that was like a translation error, if it was a choice made by, because it was a dialogue, like the character said the word. So I don't know if it was just like their interpretation of what they are, or what like the thought process behind that was, but I did really think that it was super interesting. While I played through chapter 1, which had elements from the Three Little Pigs, no, sorry, it was the Three Little Pigs, but the actual chapter was Puss in Boots. I really thought that was like this was the chapter that I really thought that it was like a family curse, because we are introduced to a lot of different characters. There's Marguerite, who we have access to her journals, and she appears to be somebody who is very sick in some way. She kind of seemed very much like a recluse almost in her journals on my first playthrough. That was how I interpreted her character. She was somebody that didn't really leave the house. She was having kind of like these hallucinations, or that was what it seemed like. And we also find out that she is Elizabeth's mother, and thus Heinrich, which is the original Faust, and also Elizabeth's father, they were referenced as a romantic couple as well. So chapter 1, I was really like, this must be a family curse. Like, he died, and like the mom went, like the mom's crazy spirit is in the house or something like that. And that's why Elizabeth's stuck there. As we moved into chapter 2 was the Blue Bird. There was definitely a lot more reference to some kind of human experimentation of some sort going on. Again, first playthrough, I was a little bit confused at this point. There was a third character, whose name I really don't want to butcher, Siebel. We also start getting some of Siebel's perspective in chapter 2, and Siebel was the one character that I had a lot of trouble placing throughout my playthrough. A lot of, like, every other character, once I actually read a summary of the play, I was able to kind of start making connections, and Siebel was the one character that I was like, I do not know who this is supposed to be. But as we started getting more information from Siebel's journals, there really did seem to be some indication of foul play from the doctors who were attempting to care for Marguerite. As we moved into chapter 2, I still thought that it was kind of tying back into a family curse, because there were mentions of Marguerite's brother in a lot of the journals, who I presume to be Elizabeth's uncle, because that makes sense. And then in the Bluebird chapter, we meet this red-headed man who has a headache, and he seems to be looking for someone. Every time we see him, he's kind of like a NPC, in the sense that he's trapped in like this dialogue. Every time we met him in chapter 2, he would say things like, "Have you seen a girl about this tall no, okay, you should go home. It's not safe for a kid to be out. And then he would walk away. So I thought that we were still tying it into like kind of a family curse. Once we got to chapter 3, which was the Pinocchio chapter, I really had no clue what was going on anymore my first time around. I was able to make some kind of connection to the fairy tale being presented in chapter 1 and 2 and what was going on in the story, but I initially didn't understand why Pinocchio was the third chapter until they introduced Elizabeth's sibling or twin. I wasn't really sure what the intention was with that. I kind of lost the thread at that point, and I was just along for the ride. I ultimately did decide I wanted to do a second playthrough at this point because I was like, okay, I need to like play this game again to understand what's going on. But I did get 2 of the 4 endings on my first playthrough, and I saved the hidden ending and one of the other endings for my second playthrough. So after playing, or after reading the, play, like the summary of the play, I played the game again, and I really started to like make some connections on who was supposed to be who in the story. And I did want to talk about like kind of like the characters and how they tied into everything, because I thought it was like really interesting. So Heinrich Faust, Elizabeth's father, I thought he was going to be more important than he was. And initially it does seem like he takes the role of Faust, because he is, he's the one that's involved with Marguerite and everything like that. That is like the first act of the play. That is like that's what's going on. But I really like that he kind of seemed to be a red herring for like the real Faust, which I think is Elizabeth. Elizabeth is meant to be the protagonist and everything like that, which makes sense because she is the one that made the deal with Mephisto and everything. I did at one point believe that Sibyl and Heinrich might have been the same person, but it finally becomes clear in like the hidden ending that Sibyl is a nurse and is separate from him. Mephisto was the easiest character to make a connection to, because they essentially are a one-for-one character compared to like the play. Mephisto is the one who traps Elizabeth in the nightmare and makes like the deal with her. If you ever for a second feel like you want to stay in the house, you will be trapped here forever, which is very, very similar to the play itself. So that was like a really interesting connection. A character who I thought was super interesting, who I didn't even mention up until this point, was Diane Wagner. She was the doctor who opened up the Wuppertal Sanatorium to help cure patients. So she was the doctor that helped Marguerite in the journal, like the doctor referenced in the journals. She opened her sanatorium in 1930. So it was possibly due to unrest, to the lingering effects of World War I, the start of the Great Depression, stuff like that. And what I found very interesting on the second playthrough was that she was very, very likely Marguerite's mother. There were mentions of her being the constant caretaker of Marguerite, and then in one of Marguerite's journals, she states that we left mother by the pond, which is where we also find Sibyl's bracelet. Sibyl appears to us in the dream as in the form of a black cat, which I think adds to like the confusingness of like trying to make the connection of who is who, because he's the only one who is a person but appears to us in the form of an animal. But later on we learn in one of Sibyl's journals and through kind of like these flashbacks that Sibyl did kill Wagner with an axe, and then he covered it up by saying she left and went out into a blizzard. So I thought it was really interesting because the bracelet was left by the pond where they left mother. So it's like, oh, was her body buried there? I was like, none of this is like ever said, but it's all implied, and it's like super interesting. The triplets were characters that appeared kind of, not really throughout the game, but kind of like up until chapter 2. They were based off the Three Little Pigs. They were another set of characters that I was unsure of their relationship to the play, but I did think that they took the role of like patients of Wagner. who might have also been tasked with kind of looking after Marguerite, but it was clear that she never like saw them directly. So they were a little bit of a mystery to me, but I did think that they were very interesting. Um, Valentine was a character based off of Marguerite's brother in the original play. He was the one that I mentioned who would have the same conversation and he'd be stuck in the loop. He seeks her out. He's mostly ignoring his surroundings. And I think it's very heavily implied that he was potentially also murdered by Sibyl or Marguerite. And I thought that was a really interesting play on the character because in the original play, he challenges Mephisto and Faust to a duel because of Faust's relationship with Marguerite and is actually killed by Faust himself. So I thought it was an interesting decision to kind of have like a turning point to potentially be Marguerite's involvement in his death. I thought that was really a really interesting choice. But yeah, I have to say, as mentioned, Siebel was like the character who I was the most interested in. He was like, I genuinely had so much trouble placing him. I had no clue like where he fit into the story. But yeah, him and Elizabeth, and in the hidden ending, we actually do meet Siebel in real life, like outside of the dream. So we do find out he's a real person, but he was definitely the biggest mystery. And that is my 15 minutes. So yeah, that was Faust Alptraum and my messy experience with it.
Right. So I am very glad that you actually liked it because, of course, it's a game I love. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to recommend something I love. And then I realized it's so complicated. What if she hates it? What if she just finds it confusing and hates the whole experience? But I'm so glad. And yeah, so I want to know, who was your favorite character?
I think it has to be Siebel, just because like they were doing the most throughout the whole thing.
They are the best. Uh, I do want to point out, so it's partly a theory, but do you remember that's the second chapter with Valentine?
Yes.
Uh, so in that chapter, in the beginning, you go to the outside the greenhouse, which like that's a super cool thing, like the night and day thing. I love it. And you get a flower pot. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
Okay, so that flower pot grows in your inventory.
Yes, and then you lose it at the end and you don't even remember when you started carrying it. I was like, uh.
So that is, and at that image, if you see the reflection, you have not a flower pot, but you have a lady with blood down her legs.
Oh.
And I theorized that because you're sort of like, it's sort of a scene from the past that's repeating. So I think Marguerite was pregnant.
Well, she was. It's confirmed that she was pregnant.
Yeah,
She
so
miscarried.
yeah, so it seemed to be that she had a fight with her brother about that.
Okay,
And
that makes a lot of sense because like in the original play, that was what Valentine challenged Faust to the duel about, was because she got pregnant. Like they consummated the marriage and she got pregnant and then Faust like left her.
yeah, so I think she pushed him, and the shock of it sort of made her lose the baby.
Yeah, that would actually make a lot of sense and that'd be really interesting to.
There's also that thing about the narration. So the narration doesn't call the main character Elizabeth until Mephisto does.
Yeah, until it says her name. Yeah, before that she's just the girl. That was why I
Yeah.
was like, this is super interesting because we're so like separated from the main character, and then especially in like the last chapter where we were like, it's kind of revealed that Elizabeth doesn't even know as much about herself as like it initially seems like she does. It's like really interesting that they keep her so distant from us because like she doesn't even know who she is either.
I Yeah, so that last chapter, I think it's uh there is an Elizabeth, but that's not the character we play as.
Yeah, I
Like,
got that impression, but I wasn't sure if um the sibling was the actual Elizabeth, like because basically like it's I understood that there was two children that were siblings, and then one of them was like the child that was like Marguerite's child, who was Elizabeth, and then one of them was the one that waited outside.
yeah, so I think we're playing with the child that waited outside.
I thought that made
The
sense as
child.
well because once it cuts to, like the hidden I don't know, did you get like all the endings? I assume you would have because you're you.
Uh, yeah, I did.
But yeah, like once it cuts to once it in the hidden ending when we finally meet Sibyl in real life, he puts like all the chocolates on her lap and he's like I don't remember what he says exactly. I have like the recordings and everything so I can reference it back. But he puts all the chocolates in his lap and like that's how like you kind of know and like you can see his bracelet. And that was like the hint to me that I was like, "Oh, is she supposed to be the kid that was like but then what happened to the real Elizabeth? Where did she go? Or where did they go?"
Uh, I do think her aunt, from like when she wakes up, references. Like she's like, "Oh, get along with your sister. I'm tired of you bickering." So I
Does
think she's
she?
just around.
Okay, maybe I don't remember that then. I feel like I would have caught that, but maybe I missed it. I don't know.
I feel like I have a memory of that. Maybe I'm the one. My last playthrough is not that recent, so, but I feel like she's just around. It's just that our character is like the less favored of the two, because even like her aunt seemed to be a bit like mean to her.
Yeah, that seemed and it's not just the aunt too, it's the whole family. Because even when we meet Mephisto initially, all of the words that they say about oh you're not wanted, oh you're it would be better if you were never born, all this stuff, it's referenced that it's like it's not Mephisto's voice that she's hearing. It's like everybody that who's ever said that to her in the past.
Yeah, and I feel like the curse is maybe not the family, more of the place, but not as like a ghost, sort of a place that traps people. Cause like Marguerite, she had a lot of issues in her life, but she never left. She just sort of stayed there, and her brother came to help her, and she pushed him off literally. And I feel like it's more of a like and that's I don't know if you had the bad ending where Mephisto gets you.
Yeah, I got all the endings. And then you're stuck at
Okay.
the tea party and like you feel very apathetic and you don't want to leave. Like you can't remember like what you were doing.
Yeah, and but she's not like sad about it. She's like, "Oh, it's so nice that there's nothing to do and it's gonna be like that forever."
Yeah, it
So
goes to show though is like the demon like a manifestation of Marguerite's kind of like life and all of the events that occurred to make it that way, or was like the demon what caused it, you know? Like if that makes any
yeah,
sense.
I don't know what he was like if he was around back then, but we do know that currently he is the doll.
Yeah.
The so the doll that you just appears in your inventory as you wake up. And
Oh,
I think
really?
even if
Like
you like,
the rabbit doll?
yeah, it just appears in your inventory, and then if you inspect it, it says a doll you don't remember picking up or something like that.
But you've always had it. It does say that you've always had it though.
Yeah, but I think it's her childhood doll because it says that the unwanted kid was always with this its
With
doll, and
yeah, it
that's
was
what
always with the
caused.
doll. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's sort of like this comforting sort of childhood, like don't do anything, don't go out of your comfort zone, stay with your doll.
And I wonder if like the final chapter is meant to be kind of a rite of passage as well for like the the not Elizabeth to kind of grow up, because that's what she does. At the end, each shadow like represents a facet, or a part of her, an aspect of her childhood, and she like gives the items she has to them, and said like apologizes to them for not allowing them to feel that way like before.
Yeah, I really love that part.
Yeah.
The crayon look. Oh man.
Yeah, it was a really good artistic decision. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because especially because the mansion like representing this like nightmare dream like storybook land, where it's like everything you're being told has like a fragment of truth in it, but nothing is really like spelled out for you. And then when Elizabeth finally realizes like the truth, or like the truth about her at least, like the house gets like ripped away, and like we're able to like kind of see what's underneath it. It's like, it was just like really cool symbolism, I think, for what they were trying to show. It was really good. I really liked it.
Yeah, it is like mechanically, it's really satisfying to give away all your items. I think it's like I like that when all your items feel like they serve their purpose. It's very satisfying in a game.
That's
And
fair.
yeah, and the last thing you give is the doll, which was the first thing you got.
Yeah. On the flip side, I'm actually not a huge fan of when you give away, like when you lose everything at the end of like games like that, because it's kind of like it adds that extra element of did this really happen? You know?
Mm.
Like you, I don't know, like the best example I could think of was like in like The Crooked Man, for example. Like when it's referenced in The Boogeyman, we learn from like Keith that all of like the journal fragments and everything that David collected was like gone when
No.
like when they went to like go to the police and whatever. So it like adds that extra element of like, did this really happen? Was this really a dream? And I feel like with Faust Alptraum already, it being so like, I don't want to say vague, because it's not vague, it's very deliberate in all of the information it gives, but it definitely being very like, you do really need to pay attention, you really need to pick everything out to like kind of understand what's going on. To them also like giving away all the items, it's like, is that one final like twist of like genuinely none of this really happened, or what? It's like, I don't know, I think it just adds like an extra layer of just like you can really like theorize on that, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I do think so. Uh, there is an art book that you can get on Steam, and that one just deliberately says, so this character is not Elizabeth, and this is all a dream, like right away. Just sort of throws it out there.
Nice. It's like, I
And
hope
it
you've
gives you
played the game, because I'm about to tell
yeah.
you.
So that was really, and I think it was a Kickstarter game. So that's good. I'm so sad that they never did anything else.
I'm sad that like nobody
Really.
talks about it, because I feel like
I know.
like that's the thing, is like there's nothing about the game that makes it like not a good discussion. Like I feel like there's so much that you could cover on it, and like the fact that like nobody big has really touched it or anything like that, like it's kind of weird.
I do think so. Sadly, it has some copyrighted music, so that makes it harder for like let's players or like streamers especially to play it.
What's the copyrighted music? Is it the piano, or is it like the fairy tale songs that play?
I think it's the French song "L'Oiseau Bleu."
Okay.
That definitely the Three Little Wolves. The three.
Yeah,
Who's Afraid of
I
the Big
heard
Bad
that
Wolf?
song, and I was like, when you mentioned the copyrighted music, the minute I heard that song, I actually did. I was like, oh, this must be like what she was talking about. And the first time I actually replayed the first chapter 4 times. I had a lot of like, that's another thing why I would like maybe understand why people didn't want to play it like on for a let's play or anything like that, because I actually did play the first chapter four separate times before I actually like played through the whole game, because I understood that the game was very like, I needed to pay attention while I was playing it, and I needed to like lay it all the way through. And the first couple times I'd start it, and then I would be like really sick for like 4 or 5 days, and then I'd get back to it, and then I'd be like, I don't trust myself to like remember. Like I want to remember everything that is happening as I go, so I can actually like, because I'm like I can't. I know this game is gonna like pull some crazy stuff, and I need to know. So maybe like it being a slow start, kind of slower start, or like a more confusing start as well, might be why people kind of avoided it. I don't know.
Maybe. And there is this thing of like no one talks about it, so no one plays it, so no one talks about it, so sort of a vicious cycle.
Yeah, but it is a good game though. I kind of like, I don't know. It's actually it's very much one of those games where like I want people to have played it so people talk about it. Like when I finished Pedestal, I literally went online and I like every single YouTuber who did a video on it, did a let's play on it, did anything on it, I like would look in the comment section because I wanted to see like people's opinions on the ending and everything like that. And like Faust Alptraum's another one of those games where it's like I want to see like what people think about the game. And like now that we're doing this recording and I no longer need to avoid it because I don't want to like influence my thoughts on it or anything, like I can like look up what little barren content there is to find out things about the game. But like I do really want to know like what people think about it and like different theories and stuff like that, because I feel like it's very open-ended and there's a lot that you can kind of like interpret from it.
No, for sure. I was like that with Enroll. That's why I low-key bullied you into playing it.
You didn't bully me. It was already on my list before you even said anything.
Yeah.
Like literally, no, it's actually so funny because with Enroll, I literally spoke to my sister and I was like, hey, I'm gonna play Enroll on my channel. Like, did you play this game? And she's like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. And then like the next day you left a comment where you were like, you should play Enroll. And I'm like, oh, now she's gonna think that I'm playing it because she told me to.
Yeah, no. It is. There are those games that just they kind of get because there's so many games nowadays that it's hard to keep up, and so the older ones, like they're not old enough to be classics, like old timey, but they're not new enough to be like the new shiny thing. So they're just in this period of like, eh.
I feel like it's so hard with like indie games too and like indie RPGs. I feel like it's not really like, I don't want to say it's like a niche genre because I feel like that's not necessarily true, but there are a lot of gems that get swept under the rug. Like there's a lot of classics that a lot of people know, and then there's a lot of ones that like kind of didn't get any recognition. So
the one thing, we are getting on time, but the one thing that kind of bothers me is that a lot of people say, oh yeah, this was popular like in 2012, and I'm like, did nothing else came out for you after that? It's just like My Father and The Witch's House, and then nothing came out until Omori.
Yeah, that's genuinely how some people are. I don't know. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop the recording now because we're gonna talk about OneShot.
Yeah. So I played OneShot, which is a game that also an indie horror RPGs, or indie RPG mostly, that came out in 2016 originally from a game jam from Future Cat Games, which I did learn are working on a new game, so that's cool. And so the game is about Nico, which is just a little guy who wakes up in a sort of a dilapidated house, and he finds this light bulb. And then he discovers he's in this sort of like dilapidated dead world with no sun. And the light bulb he found is the sun, and he's the Messiah that has to bring back the sun to this world. But he's not alone. He will be helped by God, and God is us, the player. So Nico will talk to you and ask you things, and you have to guide Nico on his quest to restore the sun to this desolate place. The one thing also that's very unique about this game is that you can't save and you can't replay the game. There's no saves, no redos. It's all in one shot. That's kind of in the title. And so all your decisions really matter. And if you miss something, too bad. It's just gone forever, which is very sort of different than the usual game that wants you to play more and more and more. And another thing that's really interesting about OneShot is the world. So it is sort of like in a, maybe like a post-apocalyptic sort of like desolate place, like there's the barrens that's full of robots that are deactivated, and the glen, which is sort of a foresty places that is being taken over by water, and a city that's kind of falling apart. So, a lot of kind of difficult to live in environment, but the people inhabiting the world are like really kind of positive and resilient, and they're always like, oh well, we can't go in there anymore, oh too bad, but we can be here, that's fun. And so it kind of gives you sort of this weird, let's say, like a cozy apocalypse, which is very unique. I haven't seen that a lot in sort of sci-fi media. There's sort of this, so the world is going bad and they want the sun to be back, but the thing is, it's not gonna save the world to have the sun back. Like, the world is pretty much doomed and it's gonna die eventually. But it'd be nice to have the sun. So, we're here with Nico and this quest, but it's not really to like save the world and then everything will be happy dory and rainbows. It's just sort of it will give people hope for a little while kind of a mentality. And a lot of times it kind of reminds you of that theme, like in the Baron with the robots. So they're all deactivated, but you can, because they're powered by the sun, and there's no more sun, but you have the sun, so you can sort of power them, but only for a week. So now they're back on, and they can like go around and stuff, but it's only for a week. Where like later you're gonna leave, and they're gonna get deactivated, and it's gonna be back to nothing. But for a while they'll be there, and that's something, right? There's also the character of Maze, which is in the Glen, and she's sort of a plant spirit who's dying because there's no more sun. So you come around with the sun. And so she asks you, can you leave the sun with me? I want to be with the sun for a while. And, being from like a horror RPG mentality, I was like, oh no, she's going to break it. It's going to be like a bad ending or something. But you can't say no. So you leave the sun there and you go away. And then what happens when you come back is she's dead. She knew it was her time, and she just wanted to spend her last moment with the sun. And it's sad, but she had a good way to go, I guess. And you can also pick up her little seed. And I found out later that you can plant it, and that's great. But I didn't know at the time, so I didn't do it, and I can never do that. That's gone forever. That's so sad. So yeah, this recurrent theme of like, you're not here to save the world, but you're here to make it a little bit better, is sort of very bittersweet, but kind of nice. And then there's taming. So most of the robots you meet, they will, like, some of them you meet and they're kind of friendly and they talk to you sort of normally. Most of them are very like robotic and they keep to their code. And you ask them for things that are like, I can't do that. I have not been tamed. And you're like, what? Tamed? And like you'll hear that a lot. I have not been tamed. And so at the end, you discover what it means. So taming a robot is ignoring its code. It's trying to treat it like an individual. Ignore that it's just numbers and bits of metals. Treat it like a real individual, and eventually it will go beyond its code because you have treated it like a being. As a sort of a fake it till you make it mentality. And I thought that was a very cool concept, and it reminded me a lot of The Little Prince. So The Little Prince is a book that came out in 1943, written by Saint-Exupéry. And it has a similar thing of taming. So there's the character of the fox. So the little prince, he meets the fox, and he wants to be friends, but the fox says, I can't be friends with you because I have not been tamed. So, sounds familiar. And the little prince asks, what does that mean? And the fox explained, so right now, I'm a fox like any other, and you're a boy like any other, and we mean nothing to each other. But if you tame me, if we form a connection, then I will become irreplaceable to you, and you will become irreplaceable to me. And so it's this idea that, things are not valuable because they have value, but because you put value onto them as a relationship. And so I thought, oh, that's fun. Is that a nod, or is it just a coincidence? And then finally, I found out that the creators were really big fan of the book. And I should have known because there's all those references. Like there's the aviator and the big scarf and the plane and the fox and the taming thing, and there's the lamplighter, which is literally a character in the book. So I should have seen that coming. But one thing that I was very afraid while making this video is that I already knew OneShot because I had seen a Let's Play, and so I kind of knew all the twists and turn and all the sort of meta narrative. I knew about that, so I thought, oh no, I'm not going to be able to make a good review because I won't have the initial shock of everything. I'll just sort of like, I thought, I can talk about the technical things and the writing or something, but it's not going to like really grab me, right? Because I know everything, so can't do that. But then I played for myself, and I did something that I don't usually do, which is so you can Nico will call you by the name of your computer, but you can change it. But I decided to play the game with my real name. So Nico was talking to me with my real name, and that really gives a whole new thing, and like it really feels like Nico is talking to you. And I think that really makes a whole difference and makes it, I don't know how they wrote Nico, but he really feels like a real little guy that's out there. And so in the Let's Play I saw, they had the ending where they save Nico at the end, which you can decide to save Nico or to save the world at the end. But that Let's Player chose to save Nico. So when I started playing the game, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do the other one because I haven't seen that ending, so that's gonna be cool. I couldn't. I got to the ending, and there's that screen, and you have the two choices, and I got stuck there for like 5 minutes, and I was like, I can't do it. And I was like, no, but you wanted to see the other ending. I can't do that to this little guy. I want to save him. And that's when I realized that the game was making me tame Nico, because all throughout the game, like I said, like I already knew almost everything that was gonna happen, and it's a game, it's a game, but somehow they made me forget that. They just, for some reason, the writing and the everything, it just made me forget that I was playing a game and that it's just a code. And I didn't want to just do it to get the ending anymore. It was about Nico. It was about, taking care of this little guy and the world and everything. So yeah, it really worked. I didn't think it would, but it did, even if I knew everything. And and then to really be prepared for the video, I thought of playing the first version of the game, which was the free version. But I didn't, finally, because, well, that would kind of break the illusion. And I think they really, friends and people on the internet, they talk about like, oh, OneShot, it really is an experience. And I kind of knew what they were talking about because it is like a very good game, but it really is like you just really get engulfed in the world and engulfed in the characters, and it really is sort of a small miracle that really takes to you. And I didn't believe it, but there I am. And I didn't know, so it was a new thing for me, because back at the Let's Play days it didn't exist, but they made an update called Solstice when you can kind of replay the game, and a lot of it is the same, but eventually it changes and it gives you the opportunity to save both people, like both the world and Nico. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll play that because I want to be thorough. It is so much worse because everything happens way faster and way more dramatically, so all the characters you got to love and get to know, they really they get into super bad situation and you can't do anything about it. So that really also helps the whole sort of, because you're technically replaying the game, which is against the whole premise, but it feels wrong. It feels like you shouldn't have done that. You did something wrong. You should have left it alone. Why did you open it back up? You wanted a better ending? How dare you? So it really is sort of cruel in a way, but in a very, I don't know, thematically relevant way. Not just cruel for the sake of it. And so, yeah, now I'm very interested in their new game, which is Margin of the Spring. I think there's just like a few images or like a trailer out. And I think, yeah, definitely I'm way more interested and I really want to see what this team does next because they really struck gold here and it really got me. That's all I have to say. So, yeah.
Okay, honestly, the thing that stuck the most about while you were speaking about OneShot and everything like that was kind of like the difference between a experience for yourself versus like an experience through others. I was really nervous when picking a game for you because you've played a lot more games than I have in the genre that like Faust Alptraum is in, and I wanted to pick something that was like sort of similar, and that was like one of my concerns. I was like, oh no, like what if she, and you also did mention you watch a lot of Let's Plays, but I was really confident in OneShot in being able to be a unique experience because I do feel like the connection you make with the game and with the characters is something that like it's the best part about it, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it in that sense. It's actually really interesting that you didn't like, or not that you didn't like Solstice, but that you because it's like I've literally, Solstice is like the like I've only heard good things about Solstice.
It is
Actually.
great. It's just that it's like very cruel. Like everyone is doing so much worse, and it's like the because like the first playthrough, you know, things are bad, but they're sort of like they're gonna be bad later. In Solstice, they're bad now.
True, that is true. Something I also thought was like really interesting as well is I don't, okay, like you with Faust Alptraum, my playthrough of OneShot was like a while ago, like it was at least a few years ago. But they do keep Nico actually very gender neutral in the game.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, like no. I don't think that Nico has a confirmed gender. I don't think anyway, as of like when I last spoke about it. So I think that that's really interesting because they're kind of like Frisk and Undertale, where they can be like whatever, however you perceive them. I always perceived Nico as like a girl, so but I use like gender neutral terms for them because you know they don't confirm one way or another. So I thought it was really interesting that you perceive Nico as like a little boy. It doesn't matter one way or another. It's literally all up to the player. But I think it's a really cool way of like showing it's like we put value on them in that sense as well, right? Like we kind of decide the character's identity
Yeah.
as we go, and I think that's like really interesting because like it's not wrong one way or another, but it's again like that it kind of makes it a little bit more personal too as well.
We know they're not a cat. That's what we know.
Yeah, they're not a cat. They just look
They
like
have
one.
a hat.
And have they have a hat that makes them look like one.
Did you know about the Little Prince, or is that new
So,
knowledge to you?
That was actually news to me. I feel like if I'm actually not familiar with The Little Prince as a story at all.
It's very good. It's very strange, but kind of like, so the guy who wrote it, he was a weirdo. My grandfather is a very big fan. He said it's his favorite French guy, not French author, like French individual.
Just in general, yeah, out of all of them,
Yeah.
like that's his pick.
Yeah. And no, he had sort of a strange life. Like he was an aviator, but I learned, so those, you know, old-timey planes, they couldn't fly at night because they had no radar.
Okay.
So how they would like get to know where they are is they just look down and be like, oh yeah, that's this mountain, and then if I go south, I'll get there. So it's sort of like a totally other world that we can't even imagine. And so I think he's very sort of a free spirit in that way. So his book is a lot about like childhood, but seen through an adult. Sort of like how adults say that things are serious, but they're not. And
Yeah.
a child is like, why are you doing this? And it has like a lot of like the lamplighter character in The Little Prince. He's a guy that he lives on a tiny planet and he has to light the street light every night, but a day is 1 minute.
Oh.
So he just keeps lighting it all the time. And he's like, why? And he's like, because it's my job. And he's like, what? But it's sort of this sort of adult world. But the lamplighter in OneShot was way more. I don't know. He's kind of like a. You look at him and he kind of looks shifty, but he's actually like a super sweet guy. Like he just really, he's overworked, but it's to keep everything running smoothly, and he just really cares about people. Everyone in like all the characters are like really sweet when you think about it. There's not really a bad guy or someone who's kind of selfish or something.
I think they
They're
do
all
that on
kind of
purpose. I think like
yeah.
in order to add weight to the decision of like at the end, like they have to you have to feel the connection to like the world as well. Otherwise like there's no decision, you know?
I guess, but also like because we have a lot of like sort of a sci-fi death bad world. Usually they're not this nice, or like at the very least the people in it are not this nice. That kind of comes with it. Usually with the post-apocalyptic genre, people are gonna be like nasty and selfish and stuff. In OneShot they're just all sweet.
Yeah. They've come to terms with everything.
Yeah. And no, it's a very very strange and like that's the thing also, like is it a horror game? Like not really. Is it? But then what is it?
Yeah. I think it's
So this,
like a puzzle adventure game, to be honest. I don't think that it would really
I
fall
guess.
under horror.
But like story-wise, would it be sci-fi or
Uh
adventure?
I feel like it doesn't really fall into one specific, like I feel like sci-fi might be the closest, but like I don't really like when I think of sci-fi, like I don't think of like OneShot. So
Nah.
it's an enigma. It cannot be contained.
No. But it's yeah, no, it's who was your favorite character? Mine was Calamus and Alula. I really loved them.
I really, really like Nico. I'm gonna be honest, I really don't remember like that much about like enough about the side characters to like be able to like say, oh yeah, like I really, really like this character over that character. Like you talking about some of them actually kind of jogged my memory because I had the exact same reaction that you did to like Maze the plant god when like when I had to leave the sun with her. I was like, oh my god, no, like what did I do? This is a bad ending. And it wasn't, and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. But yeah, actually it's did you the very first version of OneShot that exists, you actually can't close the game either.
No, yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah, you have to play the
There was a lot
entire
of
thing in like one sitting.
Yeah.
Which
That's so not game friendly.
I know, like that's the thing. It's not a long game, but I feel like it's long enough that like I don't know, one sitting is crazy.
Yeah. I think they made it to be very experimental and it really paid off.
Yeah.
Mostly probably because of the story around it. Like it could like there's a version of this game that's just annoying. But it makes it like you don't want to disappoint this little guy.
Yeah, and I think that was like that's like why OneShot has stuck with me as like an experience overall, and like I've talked about it like countlessly like on my channel, where it's not like the story is great, the setting is great, the gameplay is great, but like what really sticks with me, like, you know, like these 3 or 4 years later, like since I played the game, is Nico, and like the relationship the game gives is able to weave between like the player and Nico throughout the game.
Yeah.
Like by the end of it, it's not a long game, but by the end of it, like yeah, you struggle with that decision of like, do I save Nico? I actually saved the world, just FYI.
That's cool. I wanted to see it.
But yeah, it was
hope it
actually
goes
like it's actually like wildly off topic, but like very interesting. Is like OneShot was like one of my very first Let's Plays on the channel. So I shouldn't have been. No, you shouldn't. It's really bad. But I shouldn't have been concerned about this. But like I made the decision to save the world not because like I wanted to save the world more than I wanted to save Nico, but I thought like it was the right choice to make if I'm recording it and people are gonna judge my reaction to the game. Which is kind of funny because I don't feel that way anymore, because now I just like do what I want to do in games, and I'm just like, if it's the wrong choice, it's the wrong choice. And sometimes I get comments like that on like certain like Let's Plays. People be like, well, why didn't you do it this way? Da da da. And like that was what I was trying to avoid when I first started out, because I was very like shy. So I think it's like something to be said about how like other people kind of influence your decision too, which is like off topic, but also like an interesting can of worms. But yeah, when my brother was the one that recommended the game to me, and he was like, I can't believe you didn't save Nico. Everybody saves Nico. And I was just like, I don't know.
And yeah, talking about that, so I heard a lot about the game for like years and years, and I kind of low-key thought, because there are those games that people will say good things about it, but because you have to, because like that's just sort of common decency, I don't know. And I kind of thought it was one of those games, like people are like, oh yeah, OneShot is great, and that's just like common truth. And like, not that I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was sort of a cool game, but people are kind of like maybe exaggerating for the sake of it. They were not. It was because that's it. It really is one of those games that you should experience yourself for yourself, like a real sort of self journey with it. And a Let's Play, I love Let's Plays, but it can't reproduce that thing. That's one of the games that has to be experienced yourself.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I was gonna say that's why I think it's really interesting too, because I did watch Let's Plays a lot as a kid, but not as much as like you described that you did. I kind of like fell off like watching Let's Plays. But I do think it's like it is really interesting that there are those games that you can get the same experience out of like watching it versus playing it, but like there are those games that like playing it is just like completely different. I don't know. It's just it's very interesting.
I do think there are some games that I love watching Let's Plays of. Like there's Little Misfortune, which is one of my favorite games, which is a game that has a lot of horrible things that happen in it. And one of my favorite things is just pick a Let's Play and see the reaction of people.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes like Let's Plays enjoyable too, is because like it's not like you're just like trying to experience the game itself for yourself. Like you're trying to experience the person who's playing's reaction to the game, which I think is what like adds the enjoyment to it. So, but
yeah, so it can be really, and then it's also, it makes you sort of relive the thing, which of course you could replay it, but
I think it offers different perspectives too. Like I could replay a game, but chances are if I've played a game a few times myself already, like my thoughts surrounding it and like my experience with it is not going to change drastically. Whereas like watching somebody else play it is going to be like I'm going to be offered a new perspective and new thoughts and new like a new way of looking at things that I wouldn't necessarily have seen myself.
Yeah, and like when you played Enroll, I thought I knew Enroll like front to back, but I didn't know about the cinema with the caddy, and I'm pretty sure like all the movies you can see are a reference to later, because the one movie that was in your Let's Play was about the the forgotten girl from the aquarium. So now I just want to replay the whole thing and see all the movies, and I didn't even know it was there. So sometimes, there's some things you think you know and you don't.
Yeah, that's
especially
true.
especially those like little unknown hidden game, because like big games there's going to be like a compilation of every secret Easter egg 3-hour videos, but more unknown games you're not going to get that. So there are things that you're going to just find, and it's just really fun.
Yeah, I think that's honestly why I really do like covering games that like not as many people play, because I feel like yeah, with Enroll I actually did want to watch all of the movies, and then I think at the time in which I was recording like that episode, I had like a prior commitment or something like that, and I was like, "Oh, I don't have time to go through all this." And then I think I forgot about it like subsequently, but I don't know. I really really tried to cover like everything in Enroll as much as possible. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it means we have to. We can't just expect someone else to do it. We gotta put on some of the work.
In conclusion, Faust Alptraum was a fantastic game, and I had a great time playing and talking about it. Once again, please check out Cinnamon Pumpkin's channel if you haven't already.
And thank you so much to Silly Goose Gamer, and this was so much fun. I would have never tried OneShot if you hadn't challenged me to it, and that would have been a tragedy. So everyone, please go check out her channel, which is full of awesome Let's Plays and great video essays.
So yeah, that's been the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.